Hello, God bless you. Wherever you are, this is Pastor Harvey Burnett of the New Bethel Church of God in Christ, also of the Dunamisword blog, and also of I Am My Brother's Keeper, welcoming you to a very special edition of the Dunamisword. Listen, we have a very special guest here today that I'll talk about here in just a second. We're going to have a very in-depth conversation on sexual abuse and things related to that, and why we are still yet in the battle for sexual abuse, even in the context of the church, and why we must stay in this battle. Queen GerVaise Guyton, the writer of a book called Dirty Man, will be joining us today. And I'll go into that in great detail here in just a second. Real quickly, you can reach me, Pastor Harvey Burnett, at 800-730-2990. That's 800-730-2990. Just leave a message at either one of the extensions out there, and certainly I'll get it. But if you'd like more information about today's broadcast, that's a good contact number. Also, you can email me at imbkcac@gmail.com. That's imbkcac@gmail.com. That's the I Am My Brother's Keeper email. And we certainly appreciate any comments, questions, or concerns that you would have at that email. This broadcast will be able to be heard on our podcast, the Dunamisword Podbean site, as well as viewed on our YouTube site. That's Pastor Harvey Burnett at YouTube, and also at the Dunamisword. That's www.bethelburnett.blogspot.com. So feel free to check those resources out. Listen, let me introduce our special guest today, Queen GerVaise Sarah Guyton is a monumental force in the literary world, being a 6-time best-selling author, a global speaker, and an astute screenwriter. Her unwavering ambition and aspiring story of resilience come from her triumph over sexual abuse and domestic violence. She is now eradicated and conquered as a thriving survivor. She holds a Bachelor's of Science degree in Business Administration and Technical Management, and she's currently pursuing her Master's degree of Business Administration with a concentration of Project Management. Queen GerVaise is also the proud CEO of How Do You Sleep at Night Media, LLC, and we'll go into that, how that title was derived here in just a little bit. She is an empowering, innovative visual arts platform devoted to creating a positive space for trauma survivors to share their healing journey. She is a proud daughter of the powerhouse, Chicago, under the leadership of Archbishop William Hudson III and Pastor Adriana Hudson, currently serving on the Presbytery, Prophetic, and Intercessor tier lead for Pilgrim Assemblies International, retention team, and the Christian Education Department. The Guyton legacy that was established with her King Ronald H. Guyton Jr. continues forward as she strives to restore heirs to the kingdom of God and eliminate sex abuse from families, communities, and countries across the globe. Furthering her legacy is Forever Guyton Publishing, LLC, FG, LLC, co-founded with her heir, Little King, MJG, which became a best-selling author himself at only 9 years old. Queen GerVaise has accomplished the successful publishing of 100% of all published FGP LLC works, with her best-selling statuses in over 10 categories. featured in Powerhouse Speakers, dominating 2023 magazine with Lisa Nichols, Trent Shelton, Gloria Mayfield Banks, and Dr. Cheryl Wood. Bearing all this in mind, it's no wonder Queen GerVaise is revered by so many across the globe for her undeniable courage and commitment to making the world a better place. Queen GerVaise dauntlessly strives to restore heirs using her gift of the arts to abolish sex abuse around our globe, diligently transforming our world one story at a time. And with that, I'd like to welcome Queen GerVaise to the Dunamisword platform today. Ms. GerVaise, God bless you, and it's good to see you.
Good to see you, and thank you for having me. I appreciate this opportunity to be able to share with your listeners and your platforms.
Thank you so much. You know, this subject is not one that is to be taken lightly at all. It's a very important subject. It's a very powerful subject. And it's one that when it was brought to my attention that your book existed, is one that I just couldn't go without. I just couldn't sit in the background and just not say anything or not have any contact. And there's a couple of different reasons for that. Number one, the content, of course, that was vitally important in sexual abuse advocacy is what I have done now for quite a number of years. But come to find out that our paths have indirectly crossed over the years. In other words, it's almost like there's a foreground of things happening, but in the background, there was paths crossing that I really didn't even know until this book was really kind of revealed to me. And I want to be clear to the audience right now and those that are listening. Within our church, the grand old church, the Church of God in Christ, I have been a voice, a clarion voice of dealing with pulpit predators, and more importantly, dealing with the healing of those who have survived sexual abuse and all of that. I did not really intend, this was a ministry that was not an intentional ministry, but this was a ministry that once I got involved and I heard some of the stories and talked to some of the people involved, that I said, I cannot just turn away. So within our church, and I will be quite frankly clear in this particular broadcast, for those of you who don't like your church to be seen in a negative light, I don't know. I can't say anything about that. That's not my intent to bring down the church that I'm a part of. But the truth must be spoken. And I have come to continue to speak the truth. And this is a daughter. What we have today is yet another daughter of this church that deserves to be heard. And these issues are very serious. Now, I'll tell you this, many of the individuals that have been written about in this young lady's book, I know personally. Yes, I've sat with some of them at tables of dinner. I've discussed some issues with many of them. And at the time that that happened, I had no idea of what God was doing over the years. And when he got me involved in this particular ministry, but it was just interesting that this ministry was born and really in the place, in many of the places where Queen GerVaise will discuss today, and that's in Chicago, Illinois. So this is vitally important. And with that said, there's a few things that we want to do, and certainly we want to allow Queen to tell us a little bit about her story. And there's some things that we wanted to, make sure, Queen, that you have an opportunity to address. First of all, I've read the book. And for those of you who don't have the book, you need to get it. Dirty Man. That's the name of the book. Now, some of you may have a problem with even the title of the book, but that's okay. If that's your problem, that's just your problem. It's called The Dirty Man. It is a memoir of healing and deliverance from sex abuse, with a subtitle that says, I pray, Lord, that you hide me behind the cross. Powerful strategies for eliminating the guilt, shame, and embarrassment of sexual abuse, both naturally and spiritually. This is available at Amazon. Sister Guyton will also tell you how you can get your copy. But with that, no further ado, Sister Guyton, give us a little bit of your history, just a synopsis or overview. How did all of this just come to be? I know that's a loaded question, but let's take it bit by bit here. Go right ahead.
Well, thank you once again. And I appreciate that the work that you're doing, even in this area of sex abuse. And it's interesting because I was under the impression, even as we were exiting, that I was the only one, right? I did not know that this was something that was happening, not just in the Grand Old Church, but within organizations.
Right.
And 1 in 10, 1 out of 10 women will be sexually abused in their lifetime. That's a statistic. And my goal is to change that. But for me, the perpetrator was who I call the Dirty Man. And that's what the book is named after, what I call him. Those are his initials, the D and the M. And that is what I use in terms of identifying this type of predator. Not so much of to highlight who he is specifically, because so many people fail to understand that sex abuse is not about the stranger danger that's walking up and down the street. Yes, that does occur, but most 90% of those that are abused is someone that they know and they have access to them. And for me, it started, I had been attending this particular church on the south side of Chicago, and he was the male figure in my life. My dad was not very active in my life. He stood in that gap. And early on, I remember even just the relationship. My mother was in an abusive relationship when we started going to the church, and her boyfriend at the time showed up with a gun, right? So he threatened to kill the dirty man, and my mama told his wife, the dirty man's wife, to get her black dress ready. So this is kind of this hero in my story was what he represented. He was a consistent male, and my childhood was respected from what I understood within the community. He was a financially established male, and he seemed to take care of us from very early on. My biological mom was a faithful member to the church, and he became our godfather. We started attending the church regularly when I was 3 and my younger sibling was 1. So we grew up with his children, and we were the church girls. And most times people didn't know us by name. They identified us as the church girls that attended the Dirty Man's Church. And in that, we had cultivated this relationship, and the with a mother daughter, and with a spiritual father, and he stood in place as a also a natural father figure. And with that said, from going to school and being very active in our lives, I remember one evening he dropped my family off at home, and later on that evening I was awakened, and the dirty man asked me, he began to ask questions and ask, how did I sleep at night?
Mm.
And it was weird. I was like, in a bed. So it was just these odd conversations that wasn't necessarily triggering, but one evening he routinely would take us home, or another member of the church, but this particular night, the dirty man took us home. He came upstairs and he, as well as my biological parent, was standing there and he said he needed to examine me
Okay,
because he had.
wait just a minute. Wait just a minute here. Um, my Lord. Okay, that is, with these type of situations, it really in any situation, but these type in particular. I mean, it's like this, that there's some places you can go for refuge. People, generally speaking, one thing that people generally say, well, shoot, if everything fails, I can always go home. As if, there's peace at home. Or certainly out of all that goes on, I know throughout the course of my life, and certainly out the course of yours, and many others listening, that we look forward to church. We look forward to the community of faith and believers, and we say, well, shoot, if I can just make it to Sunday. I know many days,
Mhm.
if I can just make it to Sunday, ooh, we gonna be all right. The Lord is gonna bless. But what makes this situation so evil and so damnable is that it seems, as I've read the book, it seems that even that foundation of having a peaceful, safe space was directly taken away from you. And you addressed that about your father, because that's one question that I had, was about your father and about your natural mother, and then the church. And it seemed like there was no place for peace. So, without going further into the story at this point, tell me how you were able to find a safe space when virtually all the safe spaces were designed to be taken and they were gone from you. What did you find really that was your bridge to help you cross to the other side?
To be honest with you, at that time, there was none.
Okay. Wow.
Not in a school setting, not in a church, not in a home setting,
Wow.
because the abuse was allowed and was fostered by my biological mother.
Mm.
So, and they worked for an agency that helped to remove children from abusive situations.
Wow.
So we grew up going on various trips, and we got to know some of the foster care system and the children that was in that.
Mm.
So what is the alternative?
Wow.
There wasn't one at that time. And the reality is, even from being able to confine and trust in those individuals, the mothers of the church, right? I saw demons cast out. I saw deliverance take place,
Yes.
but I was confused because there was times, even with the dirty man, he would be fasting and rape me in his office at the church,
Wow.
inside the church. So what is their sacred place? And to be honest with you, I thought prayer was a joke. Fasting was a whole, what is that? You just might as well eat. I don't understand it, because if it's not transforming you, how is that? And I want to be crystal clear. That was my perspective then. But interestingly enough, a lot of my transition and help did not come from a church.
Okay. Okay.
It was really those individuals who, who I believe God have assigned us people that are supposed to help us get to the next stage in life or a particular moment. But to be honest with you, it was not the church. It was my employer at the time. And I know we'll go further into the story, but
Yes.
they recognized something was different with me. And they said, take the time you need.
Take the time. Wow.
Do not feel pressured to fix it today. This is not something that's going to be fixed overnight.
Right.
Take the time you need. You're welcome to come back whenever you are comfortable. I never returned back to that particular company, but it was a Jehovah Witness.
Wow.
Right?
Isn't that something? Wow.
It was a Muslim, right? These were the people, there were people that are into spiritual, and I don't mean the Holy Father, but they were like, you need help. This is a resource. And it wasn't the church.
Right.
As you said, I am a daughter.
Mm-hmm.
My grandmother was an evangelist at Robert's Temple.
Yeah.
One of the founding for Chicago.
That's right.
Right.
That's right.
So my grandmother passed when I was 5 years old. My mother returned back to the Grand Old Church because when her mother died, she returned back home. So I was raised, right? This is not something literally born in, right? This was my foundation. And with that said, this was not the place of refuge or the connecting of the resource. So I know we'll get further into what that looked like, even with the transition, but I am not going to sugarcoat it. It was not the resource that I knew and understood. It was not the understanding of, we saw demons cast out. We heard about, I was not personally alive when Bishop Mason was alive, but when he used to, I remember the story that was told when the lady was lying in church and he said, but before midnight, your tongue will cleave to the roof of your mouth. And that lady died in that state, right? So I was confused by the power, right, and I saw demons cast out. That wasn't something that someone told me about. The deliverance was heavy in the church growing up. I'm not sure where that transition or that lack of reverence or truly understanding the impact of our decisions took place. And it's not from a condemning standpoint. It's just, let's take a look from a healthy place. Because as a daughter that has been reconnected with God, and to now be on the path of becoming a minister, in the next week, I'll be taking my exam with the organization that I'm with, and this is a big moment. But that was one of the things I said I would never do. I'm never ministered. Who's doing that? Right. Because of what I saw.
Right.
But isn't that what the enemy do? He comes to attack the area that you assigned to. He comes to attack to the area, the family, the foundation, faith, and understanding who I am in God, to second guess that, to create opportunities for discord and division. It's the same three tricks. The devil haven't started anything new. He's using the same tricks from the foundation. Absolutely. But with that said, how can we be solutionists to eliminate, eradicate sex abuse and this type of abuse that is unfortunately similar to the David, Tamar? Yeah. Are we trying to protect our legacy from being the grand old church because we don't want people to have this negative connotation? This is family. I'm a daughter. That's right. This is what I was reared in. This is what I know, and still the foundation of my faith is from this grand old church. But how can we have accountability for those who violate the least? Correct. We can't be so focused on our legacy and what we have done that we allow predators to be among us, and we turn a blind eye for a good offering. Absolutely.